Have you ever thought about what your life would look like 10 years from now? Or maybe you've you've lived long enough that you've reflected and you look back and you're like, dang, that was 10 years ago. Well, I don't really know what this video is kind of about, but that's currently what I'm doing. I recorded music, an EP. I don't know why I said it that way. My very first, I guess, quote unquote release that I ever put out as a musician is officially 10 years old this month, which is wild to think. Like, I always knew it was obviously going to get to this point, but just to be able to think like, man, all the things that have changed, what still kind of remains the same, how I've grown, both musically and as a person. It's just real interesting to like compare and contrast or whatever. And I think I just wanted to make a quick video, I guess, like celebrating that and just talking about it. A lot of the earliest songs that I've ever made, period, just recorded at all, are all up on my SoundCloud still to this day. So even when I like actually sat down to try to make an actual, I guess, release, I think my earliest track is like uploaded in like 2011 or something like that. So even a couple of years ago, it was like I had that reflection already of like, well, I've been recording music really for like a decade plus already. Isn't that wild? But when you get that itch to play in a band, it's like, okay, well, I couldn't really find a singer either that was to my taste. So I wanted to learn eventually, like, okay, let me pick up the singing thing and, you know, the whole songwriting thing. And then it came the same thing when it came to recording. It was like, okay, I don't really know anyone. Like, I don't know any music scenes. Like in my high school was small and we had musicians, but they were more interested in like, you know, like covering songs and not so much like being in bands and writing original music. I was very always like hungry for knowledge, very always like down to just experiment. And I never shied away from like quality or anything like that, you know. I started off with like the world's crappiest interface and recording things into like a very busted laptop where the screen was just like hanging off the hinges. And when it came to this specific EP, it was like, okay, I mixed it down. Like I had maybe a pair of headphones and I remember picking up an SM57, which is like the infamous, like everyone's got one of these microphones. And then I also remember getting like a little tiny crate guitar amp. Really, aside from that and like a little MIDI keyboard and some guy on Reddit that had like, here's like my entire drum samples folder, here's like 40 gigabytes or whatever worth of samples that I left downloading for like an entire like evening. I remember pretty much just took that and ran with it. And I was like, I'd like to play in bands. I don't know anyone. I don't know what I'm doing, but I need like, honestly, like if I had a good comparison, it was almost like I needed a resume, like I needed a portfolio. There you go. I don't know why I said resume, you dweeb. I think with my own like level of confidence in the things that I do, the things that I make. And yeah, part of it is because like, you know, you grow up, you're a little rotund, chubby kid. And, you know, I dealt with like other things, like every now and then you get bullied, sure, every now and then, like, okay, I'm in my late teens and I have acne and I don't particularly like how I dress, but I know I like this and I know that I want to figure this out. So like, even when it came to like the presentation of it, you know, like, okay, stage presence, how I'm starting to dress myself, you know, the things that I talk about, the lifestyle that I was living, you know, was like, well, I got my heroes were kind of like, maybe not living the best lifestyle, but if I'm here chickening out and just kind of like, you know, staying at home, writing my little songs and not really like, you know, getting out there and living life, then what am I going to write about, you know? So all these things coalesced and it just made me, it turned me from like a anxious shut-in to an anxious boot kick myself out the door every day type of person. And so when it came to like this EP, it was like, screw it, I'm going to share this with everyone, you know, and I'm going to do the most insane thing and just start hopping on Craigslist and basically shop around my songs and see like who's willing down to bite. I didn't know, again, any musicians really, like no one that wanted to like, well, take it seriously, quote unquote, or whatever. And so I just started hopping on and describing like the things that I was into, and I would like respond to people's posts who were also looking to form bands and stuff like that. And it led to a lot of fun moments, you know, like I joined a couple of bands. At one point I was a bassist, another point I was a keyboardist / guitar, and I got to play lots of cool house shows. I think the funnest venue maybe I played was The Mime, which if anyone remembers that in Los Angeles, I don't know if it still exists, but that was a really fun show. I think we opened for, I don't know what they're called now. I think they're called like Tropa Mágica, but at the time they had a different name, which I can't remember. It's funny, I remembered the current name, but not the old one. Which again, those were all fun, and I think it taught me a lot about, again, like stage presence and how I wanted to dress myself and present myself, and just like being immersed in that whole scene was a different vibe. But again, like, because I wanted to be the one that, like, I knew what I liked, and I knew I had good ideas in my head about songwriting. When it came to shop these songs around, it was kind of like I didn't have any confidence in them. So it was like I really had like all that I knew, which was like, let me just hit up randos and figure that out. And from there, it led to like lots of more of the same, really, lots of, excuses really too, to also just smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol before you're old enough to. Us, man, we always go through, I think, a very whiny phase. So it's like, these are all songs, I think, that like, I look at them now with very fondly, but it's also just kind of like, okay, poser, like stop your belly aching, like you have nothing to cry about. But because they were so simple and stuff, like they were just very like straightforward, like fun, I think is the key word, really. Like I remember just wanting to have a lot of fun with these songs. Like they really are still something I can look back on as like, cool, like these are still really fun songs. They're still fun to play. They're still fun to listen to. I'm really glad I made them, which is like, I think something I've noticed that like not a lot of people can claim. I think a lot of people don't look too fondly back on their like really early stuff, which I can't claim the same, thankfully. A lot of my early stuff I think is really fun still. I do have stuff that I'm not fond of, but definitely not this EP. And I think even when it came to actually sitting down to finally record these songs, I had this mentality, besides like the DIY stuff, of just like have lots of fun. Like it always starts at the music. Like if the like nothing else matters really at the end of the day. Like yes, you're going to change how you present yourself and stage presence and getting your songs out there and this and that, but at the end of the day, just like make sure you put the music first and foremost. So to me, it was kind of like, okay, well, if I'm not having fun, if I'm not enjoying myself making these songs, like it's going to be really obvious that I'm just being real like stuck up, or real stick up the butt. I don't know what YouTube allows anymore, but it's just, if I wasn't having fun making these songs, it was going to come across in the songs. I thought that the best approach then was to like basically like spend a lot of time making them, and then like once it's came down to recording them, just kind of shock them and knock them out, and then edit them afterwards in just a normal state of mind and figure out what I wanted to do with them. So that's exactly what I did. And so me and my friend Sebastian, as soon as I was old enough to buy beer, I told him to come down, and it was just like, hey dude, like it's gonna be my birthday weekend, come down, I'm just gonna be doing nothing but recording, like come through. And it was a lot of fun. A lot of the songs, I used to have a tradition like that I would write a song for my friend's birthday whenever we would, because we have back-to-back birthdays. He's born the day after me. It wouldn't necessarily be like specifically about him, but I think it's just like always was like a reflection of our lives, because we kind of had very similar upbringings and stuff. So it was just like a real reflection of what was going on around us at all times. And so that's why the recording even landed like around my birthday weekend. And so we had a lot of fun. I had already like spent weeks figuring out the lyrics, like the structure of the chords and stuff that I wanted to use, which songs to do. So when we actually sat down to record, it was just really nonchalant. Like we just really like, we're just cracking up most of the time, like trying to see like what sounded good to our ears, because we had my friend Sebastian and I know I talked about a different friend with the whole birthday songs, but this was a different friend in this story. We just like messed around, and even one of the tracks that was on the EP is basically just an improv jam. Like it's just a looping guitar jam that we just tossed on like some mumbling on top of, like there's no real lyrics to the song basically because of that. But I knew that like afterwards and stuff, it was like, okay, cool, that was a lot of fun. And like, let me kind of, the way the tracks are ordered, the way that like I chose, I guess, like the effects and like how to like layer everything at the end of it. Like I really wanted to tell like a story. I don't really know what the story was about really even to this day, but I felt like there was a certain flow to it. And it even ends with just like this very like kind of like somber, like my song 20th is a little bit more like somber, like not quite like the heavy garage rock jams like the rest of them. It's a very like, oh shoot, kind of almost like the morning after type of feeling. So there's this like very like energetic fun flow to it, I feel like, and even the song before that, like it is the most explosive, like big walls of sound. I think I recorded like 17 vocal takes or something like that and just layered them on top of each other to create all these interesting things. Is it my best work? I don't think so, but I'm glad I can look back on it fondly. And it's like, wow, you know, like a lot of the philosophies and stuff that I started off with, even from my very first release, is stuff that I still follow to this day. You know, like if I'm not having fun with the music, for example, like I know it's like, okay, this is kind of a bad direction to head in, you know, like I have to fix this if I'm working on stuff and it's feeling like a drag or feeling like just not good, you know, like I can tell it's going to show up in the art. But just to seeing like how else I've changed and how I've cleaned up certain things with the recording, like I still do like this DIY type of feel. And I think I ended up being like more of a jack of all trades versus a master. So there's a lot of aspects, especially when it comes to mixing and stuff, that I wish I was better at and I still have to work on. But in terms of songwriting, in terms of like maturity, in terms of lyricism, and it just overall, like as a musician, like it's crazy to see like the 10-year leap. You know, I've always heard but never really believed that it takes 10 years to master something. And at the very least, I can safely say that, like, okay, well, maybe back then I wouldn't have the confidence to say that I'm a musician, but today I easily could say that because it's something I do every day. And it's just like I can show you my receipts in that sense, you know, like here's my journey. It's come a long way. There's been certain highs, certain lows, certain songs that like are still out there in my catalog, warts and all, but certain songs that I'm like, this is honestly some of the best stuff that I've ever done. And overall it was cool because I think I'll just finish it with this, you know, it led to a lifelong friend or two, and it even technically led to me finding my wife. Like if I hadn't put these songs out, I wouldn't have played like backyard shows and stuff, which means that I would have had zero chance of running into her. So even though it wasn't like, you know, we started dating there and then at the house show, it did lead further down the line because we had that chance encounter that later on when I was ready to date her, I had that in, you know, like I had seen this person at a house show, which means if I hadn't made these songs, technically I wouldn't know her. So I feel like overall, like what more could a guy ask for, really? So that was it. I'll see if YouTube lets me still link stuff. I might not be able to do that anymore. We'll see. But I think it should be easy enough to find my stuff. It's literally my full name. It's Victor Tostado Jr. Like the food. Yes, I'm a junior. My dad, for some reason, thought it was the most beautiful name he's ever heard. So first born oldest son, naturally, okay, that's the name you get. There you go, big dog. Or just my username really on YouTube, Snark Disease. I think that's also my SoundCloud, which has my stuff that's, you know, even earlier than that, if you could believe. Which you could definitely tell, like the stuff on SoundCloud was still more like, I thought I was going to be a composer, you know, which I'm not against. That's still like a goal of mine for sure. In any case, I think overall, I'm right now at a point where like, I think I'd like to make it some type of series. I don't know, maybe just on my TikTok and YouTube shorts because that's quicker. I don't quite sure, I haven't decided yet, but I'm making a little bit of a spiritual successor EP at the moment, which should hopefully have, like, I have the songs already. It's in that same position of like I've worked on the lyrics and stuff over the past couple of weeks. Like I have the songs, but now I have to sit down and like figure out how to record it. You know, now I am 10 years ahead. I have adult responsibilities. I'm married. I have things to pay for, you know, so work keeps me incredibly busy, which I'm not complaining whatsoever. You know, it's a pretty cool gig that I have at the moment, but it means you do have to get creative with your, I guess, like, you know, time slots, my usage of my schedule. You know, I still want to keep up my responsibilities along with like bringing back this YouTube channel to still be consistent along with putting out new music, you know. So I think it's going to be a pretty fun challenge. And I guess overall, maybe it's like a little also mini announcement of like, let me try to catalog this, try to catalog me making this EP. It's going to have also like another birthday song or two, aka like, if my first EP way back 10 years ago talked about me being 20 and 21 years old, this one will be for sure. There's a song about turning 30 last year and turning 31 this year. I just turned 31 like about a month ago, you know. So we'll see how that materializes. I don't have anything I can like concretely put, you know, in a YouTube video, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And at the very least, I'm pretty pumped to put out new music. That's for sure going to happen. Otherwise, maybe the next video you'll see will still be more about a different thing, more towards gaming. I know it's like a big trying to figure out that balance too. It's a lot of fun to talk about gaming, but it also requires its own like little bit of investment of time, which I think I have a solution for. So it's good to be back, and we'll see you guys very, very soon.